His plan A was to be our God, and for us to be his people. And if you were here last week, you heard me say that he never even got to see his first grandchild. He creates Adam and Eve in the garden. He's got all the plans set to be our God and us to be his people. Sin comes in. He doesn't even get to see his first righteous grandchild right from the get-go. But he's still working the same plan. It's interesting that he was born in Bethlehem. That's that Hebrew word where this whole thing started. Is Bet, which is house. It's the Hebrew letter Bet, which is house, and Chachem, which is bread. It's the house of bread. Bethlehem. And the bread was broken for us. The bread that gives us sustenance that we eat, like food. That's why they had to go there for him to be born, because that was going to have a lot of meaning in history, throughout history. You know how the world is the opposite of the things of God in so many ways? Joseph and Mary had to go there to register in the census for taxation. How many of you like taxes? So we gotta do it. Gotta register. It was like they had to go there for the IRS. That's our Christmas. You know, it's just the irony of it really gets me. But God's plan, you know, we say that's the beginning because it is. I mean, what does our calendars, when you write a check, what year is this? It's 2019. Well, says who? Chinese they've got a calendar. The Jews have a calendar. The Aztecs have a calendar. But for the most part, the whole world knows that, you know, it's AD, BC. It's 2019 years since he was born. Who else gets that? The Beatles didn't get that. You know, to have time stop. Now we can get going. We've got the baby here. But it began in Genesis. That's the first book of the Bible. And it's all wrapped up in the Revelation. The Apocalypse, the last book of the Bible. A lot of you know that there's some striking parallels between those books. I'll read some. Genesis 1:1 declares, in the beginning. Revelation says, I am the beginning and the end. Genesis, he says, God created the heavens and the earth. And John sees in Revelation, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Genesis declares, let there be light. God gives the light in Revelation. Genesis, the darkness, he called night. Revelation 21:25, there will be no night there. You see a pattern? They're kind of the inverse and the reverse, the promise, the fulfillment, the offset of the thing. They're similar in their differences. They're identical in their mirror image of it. Just like the spirit world and the material world. In Genesis, the gathered waters he called seas. In Revelation, there was no longer any sea. That made any of you wonder when you read that? There will be no more sea there? I kind of like the ocean. Fish, where are the fish going to be? Seas. Why would there be no more seas? Is there something wrong with seas? Why would God want to? There's two ways to look at the sea, at the water. It can be treacherous, but it can be fruitful. We get fish and stuff, recreation. Well, I think the water wasn't all that welcome when it started raining in Noah's days. It was a judgment. So water can be a judgment. It can also be trouble. The point he's making is, don't think of it in earthly terms. There'll be no more trouble, no more seas, no more treacherous travels. In Genesis, God made the two great lights. In Revelation, does not need the sun or the moon. He also made the stars, plural. In Genesis, in the Revelation, we have the morning star, Christ. Genesis tells us to subdue the earth and to rule over it. And in the Revelation, they will reign forever. You find the tree of life in Genesis. You find the tree of life in Revelation. There's a river watering the garden. You've got the river of the water of life in Revelation. In Genesis, you shall surely die. Free gift of the water of life in the Revelation. And then he says, or you will die. He's doubling down on it in Genesis. And in Revelation, he says, there's no more death. Good news. In Genesis, a man will be united to his wife. It's a wedding. In Revelation, we have the bride of the wife of the Lamb. It's a wedding. Now, in Genesis, we're shown a garden into which sin entered. And in the Revelation, we're shown a city into which sin will never enter. In Genesis, the walk of God with man, that fellowship, walking together with him, was interrupted. But it's resumed. The walk of God with man is resumed. Revelation 21:3. Now you have in Genesis the initial triumph of the serpent. He thinks he's won. Well, in the Revelation, you have the ultimate triumph of the Lamb. The earth is cursed in Genesis. There's no longer any curse in Revelation. Genesis, God says, I will greatly multiply your pain. In Revelation, says, there's no more pain. We were banished in Adam from the garden. But in Revelation, we will see his face. He drove man out of the garden, but John saw the holy city. So plan A was Genesis. The Revelation is actually the fulfillment of the plan. That's what it looks like when it's done. There was great anguish over sin coming into the world. God loved his man. He saw all of us in Adam. This was his plan to be our God and us to be fruitful and to multiply on the earth. And I can't imagine what it to have his beautiful, perfect plan, to have it foiled by this rogue angel. I was thinking about, well, that happened once. That was the first time that it was going to happen. It's a Murphy's Law thing. If you're going to make a free will entity, how do you know it's not going to go this way? It's gonna. You can count on it. Because Adam was not omniscient. His plan, God's plan, was to be our God. He's the omniscient one. We do what he says because his will is good and we love him. It's a perfect relationship. We don't really like the idea of being obedient to something because we're like, well, no, I don't do what I want to do. Who says I have to do that? It's just in us. It's the old man. It's the old nature. But if you have a good God who loves you, your Father. I mean, it took a while, but now Cameron likes to take out the trash when I tell him to take the trash out. Because he honors his father. It's a good thing. It's not, oh, Dad. No, he doesn't do that. We've all done that in the past, but having a God that loves us, that we know wants the best. He's the one that said, be fruitful and multiply. Anybody got a problem with being fruitful and multiplying? That's an incredible command and a promise for us. By the way, after the flood, Noah and his family, you know what God said to them? Be fruitful and multiply. He's not quitting plan A. That's it. That's what I do. Remember we said sozo? It's whatever you need, whatever you're lacking, whatever's wrong, if you've got a broken leg, sozo is the healing. If you're behind on your bills, sozo is your money. If you're afraid, sozo is your confidence. If you're unsaved, sozo is your salvation. It makes you whole. That's what God is. He wants to love you and provide everything for you. All the time. That's what a God does. We don't know what it's like. But God's trying to show us in his love, in his long suffering. How long ago was Genesis? Did that thing happen when he created all this? How long ago was it? We don't know. And it doesn't matter. Whether it was 5,000 years or 5 billion years, it doesn't matter because it started. And then when's the Lord coming back? And where are we going to have Revelation 21? When are we going to do what John saw? There, somewhere there, in some time. That's our confident hope that it's going to happen. God promised it. We can have a confident hope. Bible hope, as we talked about last week. It's confident hope because God promised it. So we know it's good. So while we're in the meantime, while we're waiting, so to speak, we look and we see that and we're very confident. We're groovy. Everything is finished. It's done. You can't be more saved. You can learn more about how saved you are, and that's great. But it's done. It's finished. Now these bookends, the anguish and the joy. I mean, we talk about wanting to be vanquished, our enemies vanquished, we want to be vindicated. You know, the psalmist says we're not to, don't be envious of the wicked, the prosperity of the wicked, because it looks like the bad guys are winning all the time. You listen to the news, sounds like the bad, it seems like sin is just the coin of the realm here. Oh, it is the coin of the realm. Everybody does it. They whitewash it. They don't even try to whitewash it. They have parades for sin. It's just all over the place. So it looks like they're winning, doesn't it? I would like Satan to get his butt kicked. I would like the evil stuff that's done in the dark. I'd like that to be brought out in the sun. I'd like them to squirm a little bit. I pray that they're all saved. But at some time, that light's going to come on, and they're going to squirm, and it will happen. Now, those are our enemies, and when the enemies of God, and thus our enemies too, when they're defeated, when they're exposed, when the serpent's head is crushed, that's a rejoicing thing. That's a triumph. A triumphant deal is a big deal. But there's also, we get out of here we get to move into the new place. It's all new. A new heaven and a new earth. Well, why can't we stay here? I like it here. I do like it here. I mean, it's beautiful. It's my favorite planet. Although I did post a picture of a couple of pictures of Jupiter. One, it showed a cyclone on Jupiter the size of Texas. And it showed the United States of America over Jupiter, and there's like 6 or 8 cyclones. They're enormous, just the size. I mean, it's just so big. But there will be a new heaven and a new earth because this place is cursed. It's got to go. There'll be a new heaven and a new earth. So on the Revelation side, on the end of the bookends, you've got a lot to look forward to. A lot of rejoicing. It's finishing up, and we're moving out. We're moving on up. And then in the beginning, you've got the heartbreak. First of all, the marvelous creation. God makes all this stuff. And he's got the garden set up for us. Be fruitful and multiply. And then, well, God didn't really say you'd die. Sin entered the world. We became the ones determining what was sin or not. We had the knowledge of good and evil. We could call the shots. And that's not the way God wanted it. That's why he said all the trees you can eat of, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't. Well, if we were good, okay, I'm fine with that. Until you eat the apple, and now it's like, oh, you mess around and you start to figure out what you can make good and evil yourself, and you get tricked into things that are contrary to what's good for you because you're not omniscient. You don't know everything. There's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, there's destruction. So it's easy for Satan to mess with you because he'll use your logic. Well, it seems right. That seems right. Yeah, right. I could do that. Right, sure. Next thing you know, shooting up heroin. It's a little extreme. But the point is, there's a way that seems right to us, and that seemed right. It seemed logical. We ought to be able to call those shots. But it was bad for us. Things went really bad. We were just starting to get through Romans 5 last week about how much more good is God than how bad the sin was. So the sin was bad. But however dark it gets, it cannot be compared to light and goodness. They don't offset one another. It's not, okay, darkness, light, there we go. That's a perfect balance. No. You put darkness on this side, you put light on this side, boom! It completely offsets. It's not even to be compared. Satan is no contest for God. So you've got a lot of the entrance of sin, the anguish there, the victorious triumph over here, and man without sin. The sin nature has been removed, has been destroyed. Can't happen again. Satan's out of the equation, and we get on with this program with the billions of us and our grandkids forever in heaven forever. It's great news. So you've got these two, the infinite past and the infinite future. This one had a beginning. This one has no end. You've got the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, and they're pushing on each other. And they're pushing into the middle to bring this together. What would you say, this is a rhetorical question, the most technologically cool thing that mankind has ever done? What was the greatest achievement of man? And we could say, well, fire was a good one. I was thinking about the wheel. Because without the wheel, we wouldn't have a lot of stuff. It's intrinsically, important thing. There's other stuff. The electric light bulb was cool. Mapping of the human genome is really cool. Lasers are cool. Flight is cool. I'd say the coolest thing that mankind has ever done is the Apollo mission when we landed on the moon. Huh? I'm trying to read your lips. What did you say? Toilet paper. Oh, toilet paper is another good one. Thank you. That was another. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said. Western civilization, indoor plumbing, it's all good. But so going to the moon, if you think about it, we're on this planet, and we're going around and around the sun, and for some reason, we're not satisfied. We've got to go to the stars. We look up, and we want to fly. It's in all of us. We've all had telescopes, most of us. How many? Anybody ever had a telescope? Both the cat kids, yours should go out. Yeah, we've all played with telescopes. You like it. I want to see. I want to know. We will go to Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey. We love it. Want to go up there. Want to see it. It's so expansive. It's like inviting. Isn't it? Just man, I want it. But isn't it funny how now God is the universe, is outer space. Where does he want to go? He wants to come here. He wants to go to the earth. He wants to make a garden. We're trying to get off of here. It's just like flipped mirror image thing. Well, I'm thinking, okay, one is better than the other. You know, our ideas, we're not omniscient, but we've got ideas of cool stuff. We mapped the human genome. I like to go to the stars. I like the lunar landing thing, Neil Armstrong. I think it was fantastic. But if God wants to come to the earth, what does he see that we're missing? He wants to be home with his family in the tabernacle, with the family, being fruitful and multiplying with us. There's something missing inside of us. There's a yearning for us. Even as saved people, there's a yearning for us that we have inside. There's something missing. We want to be filled. And we won't really be fully satisfied until we're filled with that, and that's God. That's the bride in all of us. Did you catch that? That's the bride in all of us. As a guy, when we talk about us being the bride of Christ, we have to kind of go, right? Because we're used to being the groom in that when you think about marriage. But we yearn to be filled too. We yearn to be cared for and taken care of, just like the bride does. And God yearns to fill us. He wants to be that close. He wants to be infused in us, be baptized in us, that intimately. That's why he uses the marriage. It's a picture of him with us. So a virgin shall conceive. A virgin shall conceive. Let that sink in. That's just not something, oh yeah, and Mary was a virgin, and then she has... No, think a virgin conceiving. There's something missing in that, or there's something present in that. What's missing? Can any of you gals do that before you? Can you have a baby without having the? No. So what does it take for that to happen? A big miracle. That was a big deal. That's right in between Genesis and Revelation. It was all the pressure from the beginning of it to the conclusion of it, pressing in to bring a virgin birth, bearing God. We sang that song about Emmanuel. It's actually a phrase. We all know the word Emmanuel, and we know what it means. Do you know how many times it's used in the Bible? Twice, both in Isaiah. That's to give you a little clue about Bible study. How important is Emmanuel? It's that phrase. It's very important. And it's only found in 2 verses in a lot of songs. So when you're doing your Bible study, we're looking for all the places, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let something be established. We're looking for all the references to line up to validate a certain thing. This is just 2 places in one book. Mark that. Don't try to, it's not a lot of repetition. There's a lot of little very important pivotal things throughout the Bible. So you're going to read it slowly, pay attention. In Hebrew, it's Emmanuel. Em, E-E-U-M, is with. Anu. A-N-U is us. And El, we know, is God. Is El Shaddai, Elohim. Emmanuel. Emmanuel. So he came to be with us. He came from space to earth. Now, he'd been here before. Walked with Adam, right? But he wasn't in us. He was visiting. Visited Moses a lot of times. The angel of the Lord. Well, that's him. But with Jesus, he came in to a human body. A virgin shall conceive. A human body. Now remember, Jesus experienced all the things that are common to a man. He is with us. That doesn't just mean like he's with us today in a room. No, he's with you in everything. He's there when you're hurting. He's there when you're lonely. He's there whatever you needed. When you're in despair, he was in despair with you. He wasn't just all fine. No, he was mourn with those who mourn. He felt it. He knows what it's like to be rejected and to be hurt. He experienced it with us as a person so that he could be with us and stay with us and relate to us and us relate to him. So he comes from space to Earth. We're the ones who want to go up to space, which is cool. I like space. I mean, think about all of the stuff that we found on the moon. Rocks, bunch of rocks. That was it. Seriously, that was a bunch of rocks. Maybe Mars. We'll go to Mars. There'd be microbes there. There'd be water. That might be water. It's elements. Bunch of rocks. Gorgeous. I mean, you look at Jupiter, that's not even a rock, that's a gas. Liquid methane or whatever. It's you can't walk around on Jupiter. And if you could, you'd be squashed because the gravity's so strong. But going up into space, you're not going to be fruitful and multiply up there. It's cold. And it's just a bunch of rocks. I mean, this fantasy about finding life on other places, I'm not denying that there could be microbes or something. I don't really know why. It could be. I like aliens. I like flying saucers as much as the next guy. I mean, it's cool to think about. I'm okay thinking about that stuff. But if you really think about it, I don't think there's much out there. I mean, God, he's got all the space in the world. But where does he want to come? Where does he want to be? Here. He wants to have a cool house with you. He wants you to have a cool garden, cool family. And he wants to take care of everything. When I was little, I had no idea what our mortgage payment was when I was growing up. When I'd go to the grocery store with my mom, this was the days before they'd scan it. You had the... She's clicking, you know. Then you get your S&H green stamps. But a long receipt. I had no idea how much that was. Because I have a mom and a dad. I'm just being a child. Then I became a dad, and man, I watched every penny, you know. No, we can't get that today. Maybe next week. We watch it. But when you're young and you have a dad and a mom, you know, the ideal situation. Not everybody has the ideal thing. I understand that, but just think about it. The idealized version of childhood is you've got parents that take care of you. You have good parents. Even parents that aren't saved still love you. If you being, you know, evil, if your son asks for bread, you're going to give him a stone? No. Well, you're evil. How much is your heavenly Father going to love you? He is perfect. That's what he's trying to get going. To be our God, to love us and take care of us, so that we can be carefree like children. Not childish, but carefree. To not be worried about stuff. And right now, he said to cast your care on him. He cares for us. So we don't have to wait for that. That's not something that you have to wait for, is to have him be your God and take care of you. He gives you wisdom, gives you inspiration, gives you a desire to work and to serve. It's all good stuff. But he wanted to come here. And he did on Christmas. That's why Christmas is so special. It's the power of the beginning and the end pressing in on an event that brought him here as a baby, as a man. Because he did something that we couldn't do. He had to come here himself and fix the problem that started in the Genesis, so we could have the party at the wedding, the second wedding. He's the second Adam. So, that's Christmas. And he was a baby. And some 30 years later, he starts his ministry at a wedding. God likes weddings. And if you think about it in your life, what is probably the most consequential thing that many of us in this room have done? And that's you fall in love, you get married, and you have children. On a good day, not everybody does. Things happen, but the idealized picture, we all have that. Well, you know, you have your high school sweetheart, you know, you're courting, you're dating, you're trying it, you know, because you have a yearning. You don't want to be alone. There's something missing inside. Oh, this will do it. Well, sometimes it does on a certain level, but sometimes it doesn't. Just saying. Happened to a lot of us. Sometimes it doesn't. But we have that yearning. Well, God is that. He's the real fulfillment of that yearning. And it takes three to make a marriage. You need to triangulate with him. The closer you get together to him, the closer you get together like a triangle. The bottom of the triangle is the man and the woman. God's up here. If you're both seeking God, it brings you closer together. If you put God first. If you're trying to just get this here without him, it's not going to work. But so we have that yearning, we have that absence in us that we want, or we need to be filled, and that's what God has done. So that was Christmas. Now, when we sent Neil Armstrong, when they went up there, that was, I'm thinking if they look back now, I go, oh my God, what was I thinking? They had such cojones to do that. I mean, they had one shot at it. If any one little thing went wrong, the whole thing was going to, oh my God. So they actually do it. They actually get there. They're walking around, they're playing golf, taking pictures, talking to us, They get back in, and they got one shot. They only have this much to kick that thing off of the planet, of the surface of the moon, and to hook up with the, whatever you call it, the capsule up there. So they do it, and they're able to loop around, and then they make it back here. It's just amazing to me that they actually did that and pulled it off. And so they made it back to the earth. Well, if you look at the mirror image, the passion that produced the virgin birth here to come to set that ministry up, to finish the work of the mystery, to do it without Satan busting him, to get to the cross to die. He came to die. That was his main mission. You only got one job to do. And he did it. Death couldn't hold him, of course. 3 days later, he's back. Then he keeps preaching. Hundreds of people see him. And now he leaves. He leaves the surface of the earth. Like we left the surface of the moon to come back to earth, he left the earth to go back to heaven. Think about that. Now, when he left, that was Easter. That's the second part of the story. Everything that happened between Christmas and Easter, that changed the course of history, changed the course of time, changed the destination of the human race, brought us eternal life. I'm just freestyling it up here. I've been thinking about these things all week. For a month, I had this idea of the pressure from both sides of this Genesis and Revelation story. That's the Alpha and the Omega. It says, I'm the beginning, I'm the end. And from the beginning. You know what the Omega is the sign that looks like this. It's sort of round. It's got the little feet on the bottom. And the Aleph is like a letter A. The letter A is a triangle. It's sharp. It's got sharp corners. The Omega is round. It's soft. This is just a little sidebar, a little side thing. The Ark of the Covenant was God's tabernacle on the earth, his dwelling place with man in the Old Testament. And it was a box. And a box was kept in a room that was 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. It was a cube. The box might have been a cube. I'm not sure if it was a cube or not, but I know it had corners. It had edges. The law is very precise. It has very square corners. They're very sharp. They'll poke you. Whereas something that's round is very soft. That's the Omega side. That's the grace side of things. It's interesting because when God, what does he fill space with? Whether it's large or small, it's all spheres, giant spheres. Some are balls of fire. Some are big, really cool rocks. But they're spheres. Think of anything in space out there. Asteroids, chunks of stuff, random, that's just dirt. That's just junk left over from collisions and stuff. But the things that he made. And if you notice, they're all different. They're not all the same, identical. That's what blows my mind. You know, you look at, they got the, craters and stuff from the rocks. They don't have atmospheres, a lot of them. But they're different colors. They have different mineralizations in them. Some have lots of moons, some don't have. Some have one little big. Moons have all kinds of cool stuff. The variety is amazing, but they're all spheres. Heaven is described with how many cubits it is and stuff. It's a cube. Heaven's a square thing. Don't ask me. I'm just saying what I read. I read, and it's a cube. Well, so is the tabernacle. It's a cube. But isn't something that's this many specifications of a cubit? That's very legal. Very legal box confining thing. Perfect, but legal in a box. God creates things with spheres. He's got the Alpha and the Omega. Do we want the law? Do we want precision, everything buttoned up just exactly the way it is? Well, if I'm having a heart transplant operation, you bet I do. I want it very, very exactly precise. Now, I've got plenty of room for precision. I'm a photographer. It's a very precise thing with optics and light and, thousandths of a second of things. I like that. I like the sphere. I like the round. I like the liberty. No hard edges. You can play on that sphere all day. Roll all over it. It's a good thing. I like it. That's what God made for us. There'll be a new heavens and a new earth. There's no darkness. The Lamb's the light thereof. There's no death. There's no sorrow. I like the fact that that's what's driving our God to want to come here and go through all this for us. He's trying to put the band back together, as I say. He wants the family together. We think of family here as the children will leave your mother and father. It's like, oh, I don't want Cameron to leave. Justin and Nicole, they're doing great. They got their little family going. I don't see them as much. I'm happy for them, but I wish we all were always together. Somehow in heaven, it will be like that. I don't think we're going to be like leaving. I think if you leave, you just have the house and the farm next door. So the kids are always there, and then you got the grandkids to play with, and they see Grandpa every day, and you have it like that. Family, that's plan A. That's what God's wanted. He wanted to come here. Do you know that in a Hebrew wedding, traditionally, the groom travels to where the bride is? There's a whole ceremonial thing about him traveling, whether it's to another country or to another town. There's a wedding procession that goes to the bride's place. Well, the groom came here. Now, he came here as a baby, but he's going to come back. It's going to be like a wedding procession. It'll be glorious. He likes weddings. He likes family. He likes babies. He likes gardens. He likes rivers and mountains. We need to have that be much more in the forefront of our thoughts. We've got God out there somewhere. We've got our doctrine all checked off right here. We know this and that. We've got timelines. No. This is a family affair. This is about God present with you all the time. You can lean on him. You can count on him. He's never going to let you down. He doesn't want you to break a sweat. He's got everything finished. What did he do after the 6 days? He sat down. What was there left to do? Oh, I forgot. No. He sat down. Now, another thing, he saw the problem in advance. You think Satan caught him by surprise? Got the lamb already slain. A lot of stories that point to the same conclusion, to the same God, to the same love, to the same family matter. when you go home today and get ready for Christmas, good chance you're going to see other family members that might not go to church with you, they don't see. Make family time, make the home a little bit more special. Spend a little bit more time actually loving on them, talking, listening. Just keep it light. Don't talk about Donald Trump. Pray for Donald Trump. Love the guy. Pray for him. Be grateful and thankful. We have one day we call Thanksgiving Day. Christmas Day is what give us the ability to really be grateful and thankful. It's all Jesus. The whole thing, everything is Jesus. What he did. It's all about Jesus. Every Christmas song takes on a little bit of an extra sheen when you begin to think of it's God's love personal relationship with you, his loving relationship with you personally. We're coming to the close of an interesting year here. Next week, I am going to have a message about the new year. And it's kind of in general about how does God look at new things. I don't want you to miss that one because it affects all of us here. We've got some guests here today. I'm glad you're all here. It's good to see you. Some people who haven't been here for a while, too. It's nice to see you. And I just wanted to make a mention about something. Since John Cronin, not John Cronin, excuse me, he's not even here. Since Johnny Kirkwood has moved to Arizona and he started the Sparrow's Call ministry, there's a lot of people that knew him from here have followed him there. Not necessarily moved there, but they're following and supporting his ministry there. Fantastic. I'm glad about that. But that's left a little bit of not so much money is coming in here, because a lot of it followed John there. Now, we don't generally take offerings here. For as long as I've gone, I don't remember one time where they passed the hat. Now, some of you who are maybe new here, you're going, yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, it's very refreshing. I never really cared for that. I always felt like they're trying to fleece you, trying to guilt you into putting some money in there. That's not nice. We don't do that here. But when you hang around with Jesus long enough, you begin to see the needs of others greater than your own, and you give out of love. And it's always worked, and it always will work. But the way that we do it, for those who are so inclined, who want to participate in the support of this ministry, of the work of this ministry, there's a little box by the door. Put some money in there if you want. No compulsion whatsoever. We're perfectly fine because God is our source. Totally fine. Nobody's worried about money. And if they are, cast your care on the Lord, for he cares for us. Don't worry about it. He's more than enough under every circumstance. Don't take your eyes off the Lord. Don't be distracted. But I just wanted to put that out there so that, especially at the end of the year, some people are planning for tax purposes what they want to be able to deduct from this year. So that's the box. Next year, we'll probably have some envelopes that you can jot your name down for people who want to give cash, so you can have it. We'll get you a receipt. But right now, you just put cash in there. If you want to use a credit card, you can see somebody in the office. They'll take care of that. So that's pretty much the message that I wanted to get across to you. The end, from the beginning, and what happened smack dab in the middle. That was God coming from space to earth to be one of us so that he could be in us and with us. And then he showed us the way. He is the way out of here. And we're going to inhabit a new heaven and a new earth. So there's things that are yet to come. But in God's mind and his economy, it's finished. He rested on the seventh day. That was a long time ago. He rested knowing he already saw Revelation. He just gave John a peek at it. So he had the remedy before the malady, before the problem. He knew he had the whole plan of how he was going to get back at Satan and get into us and have the sin issue erased from it. He had that all then. And so he is, even though there's things yet to happen, you say, well, it's happened in the Spirit. We haven't seen it yet here. But it's all good. You can have it right now. You can have the peace of God right now from the finished work of the cross. And I'll pray for you, and then we're going to go have some coffee. Father in heaven, thank you for doing what you've done. It's so glorious and magnificent. We can hardly get our heads around it. Thank you that your Spirit indwells us and makes these things real. That you've given us a new wineskin that's expanding, that's capable of expanding by your Spirit. That the old man is dead, that we're being renewed and more every day to realize and understand the finished work of our salvation in Christ, of his incarnation, his resurrection, and his return, and his indwelling us by the Spirit, and the life forever into eternity, what you've done for us. It's so glorious. We thank you for it. May, as we go into the new year, may we be reading the Bible with new eyes, with a new excitement, renewed appreciation and curiosity. May we be at peace to slow down, to catch up with you, and stay at rest. In Jesus' name, amen.